This is the story of Ariela Polanco. On August 17, 2025, law enforcement responded to a vehicle found stopped on the eastbound side of the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon, New York. Inside the car was the body of 33-year-old Ariela Polanco, known publicly as Ariela Langosta. She was pronounced dead at the scene with multiple gunshot wounds.
Tonight, a search for the killer of a woman found dead in a car on the Cross County Parkway in Westchester County.
Yeah, police say 33-year-old Ariela Polanco had been shot several times. Her body was discovered Sunday morning. She was a nightlife influencer with 500,000 followers.
And tonight, those followers are hoping investigators are successful in their efforts to figure out who killed her and why.
Here's Omni News reporter Anthony Carlo.
Opus Lounge on West 202nd Street, typically bursting at the seams with nightlife, is dealing with the loss of life today. Co-workers remember Ariela Polanco the way she was in this portrait, part of a memorial outside.
Happy, yeah. All the time she is happy.
She's beautiful. She was beautiful. Beautiful. Pretty.
Investigators quickly determined the incident was a targeted killing. The case drew attention because of the victim's public profile. Ariela was a Dominican social media influencer with over 500,000 followers. She worked as a bartender at Icon New York, a Manhattan lounge, and was a recognized figure in the city's nightlife industry. She had also appeared in the 2023 music video WAPI by rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine. The investigation was handled jointly by the Westchester County Police, the New York Police Department, and the FBI Safe Streets Task Force. Detectives secured the crime scene, collected ballistics evidence, and began reviewing surveillance cameras from the parkway and surrounding areas. Ariela's digital records, including phone and social media activity, were also examined for leads. Authorities did not immediately release information on potential suspects or motives. The classification of the case as a targeted homicide eliminated the possibility of it being random, but the reason for the shooting remained undisclosed. Media coverage highlighted Ariela's status as a nightlife personality and her association with high-profile figures. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people. Real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now let's dive in. Ariela Polanco, widely known by the name Ariela Langosta, was a 33-year-old Dominican woman whose presence spanned both the social media landscape and New York's nightlife industry. At the time of her death, she was considered a recognizable personality, not only among her followers online, but also within entertainment and hospitality spaces across the city. Born into a Dominican family, Ariela carried strong cultural ties to her heritage while establishing her career in the United States. She maintained close family connections in both New York and the Dominican Republic. Alongside her professional and public identity, she was also known as a mother, balancing her family responsibilities with her career in the nightlife sector. These ties provided her with a dual identity, one rooted in community and family, and the other in the fast-paced world of nightlife and digital influence. Professionally, Ariela held several roles. She worked as a bartender at Icon New York, a restaurant lounge located in Manhattan that catered to nightlife crowds and social gatherings. In addition to her position there, she had been associated with other nightlife venues, including starlets in Queens and Opus Lounge. Her consistent visibility in these venues built her reputation as an established figure in New York's entertainment and hospitality circuit. Outside of her physical work environment, Ariela maintained an expansive online presence. On Instagram alone, she had built an audience of more than 500,000 followers. Her content included modeling, fashion, and lifestyle posts, which gave her a prominent position in the influencer community. She leveraged her digital presence to expand her public image beyond nightlife work, blending both industries into a single personal brand. Her following reflected her ability to connect with a large online audience, while also sustaining her recognition in real-world entertainment spaces. Her visibility extended into the music industry as well, In 2023, she appeared in rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine INE's music video, WAPI. This public association connected her further to mainstream audiences and added to her recognition outside of her regular followers and nightlife peers. The collaboration strengthened her identity as someone tied not only to nightlife and social media, but also to broader pop culture moments. Within the nightlife community, Ariela's reputation was well established. Her work at Icon New York, combined with appearances in other clubs and lounges, placed her in a consistent cycle of interaction with the city's nightlife patrons. She became identified not only as an employee, but as a personality whose presence was recognized across multiple venues. In this context, she was both professional within the industry and a public figure who added to the atmosphere and visibility of the nightlife scene. Her role extended further into the Dominican community in New York. Ariela was regarded as a recognizable Dominican figure in the city's nightlife culture. Her connections to heritage, family ties, and professional roles made her a dual presence, someone integrated into her cultural community while simultaneously active in entertainment spaces. On Saturday, August 16, 2025, Ariela Mejia Polanco reported for work at Icon New York, a Manhattan restaurant lounge where she was employed. Her presence at the venue was consistent with her established routine within New York's nightlife industry. Staff and patrons recognized her role and her activity that night aligned with standard closing hour operations at the establishment. There is no public indication of any disturbance inside the venue linked directly to her. The shift concluded during the late night and early morning period typical for a weekend operation in Manhattan. Early morning hours of Sunday, August 17, 2025, Ariela leaves her workplace. In the early hours of Sunday, August 17, 2025, Ariela departed Icon New York. The exact minute of departure has not been released publicly. However, the time window falls between venue closing and morning commute hours. From that point forward, investigators have worked to reconstruct her route using available tools, call detail records, application location data, if available pending warrants, automatic license plate reader, ELPR, hits, and any surveillance coverage along likely corridors from Manhattan to Westchester County. Establishing her precise movements is central to determining whether she was followed, intercepted, or arranged to meet someone, and to identifying where and when the shooting occurred relative to her final location. Approximately 8 a.m., authorities received report of a vehicle on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon. At approximately 8 a.m. on August 17, 2025, a report was made to authorities regarding a vehicle stopped on the eastbound Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon near the Broad Street exit. The call type likely entered the dispatch system as a disabled vehicle, accident, or welfare check. Westchester County police units were dispatched, with additional support from other responding agencies routed as needed. Traffic control notifications were issued to mitigate hazards to oncoming drivers and to secure a safe working area for first responders. Discovery of Ariela and her vehicle unresponsive, with visible gunshot wounds. Responding officers located a vehicle pulled to the shoulder. Initial approach followed officer safety and medical aid protocols. Scene scan for threats, visual assessment of occupants, and immediate request for EMS. Officers observed an unresponsive adult female in the driver's compartment with visible signs of trauma consistent with gunfire. The interior and exterior of the vehicle showed indicators suggesting ballistic activity, including potential bullet defects in glass or body panels. Officers initiated a rapid medical assessment until EMS personnel arrived and took over. There was no report of an active threat at the scene upon arrival, and no public indication of a second injured party inside the vehicle. Emergency medical personnel evaluated the victim and pronounced her deceased at the scene. The location and timing of the pronouncement established a fixed endpoint for investigators to anchor the timeline. The roadway shoulder and adjacent lanes became an active crime scene. Command staff initiated a tiered response. Scene security, evidence preservation, notifications to investigative units, and coordination for traffic rerouting. Next of kin notifications were conducted through appropriate channels once identity was confirmed, aligning public release of information with investigative priorities. The crime scene was situated on the eastbound shoulder of the Cross County Parkway, near the Broad Street exit in Mount Vernon. This is a controlled access roadway with limited pedestrian presence and intermittent surveillance coverage from transportation infrastructure. The location presents specific investigative challenges: high vehicle speed, transitory witnesses, and environmental factors such as roadway debris and wind affecting trace evidence. Investigators establish a perimeter extending beyond the immediate vehicle to capture potential evidence arcs created by bullet trajectories, glass dispersal, and vehicular movement. The vehicle was stationary on the shoulder, positioned in a manner consistent with either an intentional pullover or a forced stop. Investigators documented tire angle, gear selection, ignition state, lighting status, and window positions. They photographed any damage to body panels and glass, looking for entry and exit points, radial fracture patterns in tempered glass, and spall consistent with bullet impacts. The interior was examined for blood patterning to infer shooter positions and shot directionality. Door locks, trunk latch, and any signs of forced entry were recorded. Vehicle data modules and infotainment logs were secured pending warrants, which can yield recent door open events, Bluetooth connections, and in some cases navigation history. The victim exhibited multiple gunshot wounds. Early scene assessment indicated the injuries were sustained within or immediately adjacent to the vehicle. Investigators documented wound location visibility without displacing the body until a medical examiner's team arrived to preserve anatomical evidence relationships. The pattern and clustering of injuries, combined with bullet defect mapping on the vehicle, support analysis of shooter position, distance, and sequence. No public information indicates that the victim exited the vehicle after being shot. Crime scene unit personnel conducted a systematic search for fired cartridge cases, projectiles, and bullet fragments. On a roadway shoulder, casings may be displaced by wind, passing vehicles, or uneven ground. Any recovered casings were mapped, photographed with scale, and collected in separate containers to preserve striation and firing pin impressions for later comparison in the lab and potential knee-beam entry. Projectiles embedded in seats, door panels, or glass were extracted under controlled conditions to preserve rifling marks. Investigators used trajectory rods, lasers, and stringing to chart bullet paths through glass, trim, and cabin space. The resulting vectors helped determine shooter location: driver side window, passenger side window, or external angles suggesting a shooter outside the vehicle. Glass fracture sequencing, radial and concentric cracks, was assessed to establish shot order where possible. Interior bloodstain pattern analysis, impact spatter, backspatter, and directional stains was used to corroborate trajectory findings and orientation of the victim at the time of fire. Teams canvassed for traffic cameras, Department of Transportation feeds, LPR hits, and any commercial or residential systems near on-ramps and exits. The objective: capture the vehicle's approach, any trailing vehicles, and timestamp that narrowed the shooting window. Where available, footage was requested and preserved to avoid overwrite cycles. Investigators also reviewed 911 call logs for contemporaneous report of shots fired or erratic driving in the corridor. Additional immediate steps included latent print processing of high probative surfaces, interior door handles, center console, cell phone, DNA swabbing of touch points, steering wheel, gear selector, and collection of digital devices in plain view pending legal process. If a firearm or casings were not located at the scene, investigative focus shifted to off-scene recovery possibilities along the likely egress route of the shooter. Based on scene indicators, wound patterns, and preliminary investigative findings, the death was classified as a homicide. Public statements by law enforcement characterized the shooting as targeted rather than random. The targeted designation generally reflects factors such as shot placement, lack of robbery indicators, absence of precipitating collision consistent with road rage, and any intelligence or pattern analysis linking the victim's movements to potential surveillance by others. This classification shaped the subsequent investigative strategy. On August 17, 2025, the body of Ariela Mejia Polanco, widely known as Ariela Langosta, was discovered in her vehicle on the eastbound Cross County Parkway near the Broad Street exit in Mount Vernon, Westchester County, New York. She had sustained multiple gunshot wounds, and her death was immediately classified as a homicide. From the outset, Law enforcement agencies recognized the high-profile nature of the victim, her connections to New York's nightlife industry, and the potential links to organized criminal activity. The handling of the case reflected the seriousness of those concerns, with multiple agencies becoming involved in the response and investigation. The Westchester County Police Department was the first agency to respond to the scene. As the incident occurred within their jurisdiction, they assumed initial control of the location, securing the immediate area and confirming the presence of the deceased. Their responsibilities included establishing a perimeter, documenting the initial condition of the vehicle, and ensuring that the crime scene was not contaminated. Due to Ariela's established ties to New York City's nightlife and her residency in the city, the New York Police Department, NYPD, quickly became involved. Detectives from homicide divisions were dispatched to coordinate with Westchester authorities, given the likelihood that the circumstances leading to her killing began within New York City. This interagency approach ensured that evidence from both jurisdictions would be collected and compared without delay. The FBI Safe Streets Task Force was also brought into the investigation. The specialized federal unit focuses on violent crime, organized criminal activity, and gang-related offenses. Their involvement signaled that law enforcement considered Ariela's death not just an isolated homicide, but potentially connected to larger criminal networks. The task force provided technical expertise, access to federal intelligence databases, and support for coordinated investigations across state and national boundaries if required. The incident highlighted complexities of jurisdictional overlap. The homicide occurred in Westchester County, but Ariela's personal and professional life was centered in New York City. This required a joint command structure where evidence collected by Westchester authorities would be shared with NYPD homicide units and federal investigators. Regular briefings were scheduled between the agencies to maintain information flow, avoid duplication of efforts, and ensure consistent public statements. The FBI's role also added weight to the idea that this was more than a random act of violence, as their mandate often centers on organized crime and coordinated violent activity. Upon arrival, officers and crime scene technicians secured the area surrounding Ariela's vehicle. Photographs were taken from multiple angles to capture the vehicle's placement on the parkway shoulder, the damage sustained, and the condition of the victim inside. This photographic documentation served as a foundation for reconstructing the sequence of events and would later support courtroom presentation if arrests were made. The Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office was immediately notified, and arrangements were made for the removal of the body for autopsy. At the same time, forensic specialists began collecting evidence from the scene, including bullet casings, glass fragments, tire marks, and potential fingerprints. Orders for ballistic testing and toxicology screening were placed to establish a comprehensive forensic profile. Although the homicide occurred on a parkway, investigators canvassed nearby exit points and gas stations in Mount Vernon to identify potential witnesses. Drivers who may have passed the scene during the early hours of August 17th were asked for dash cam footage or recollections of any suspicious activity. Local residents near the Broad Street exit were also questioned regarding sounds of gunfire or unusual vehicle movements during the night. Following the initial investigative steps, law enforcement made controlled public statements. Officials clarified that Ariela's death was not believed to be a random act of violence. The classification of targeted suggested that investigators had already identified indicators of premeditation, such as the positioning of the victim, the number of gunshot wounds, and the apparent focus of the attack. While acknowledging the targeted nature of the crime, investigators refrained from identifying any suspects or persons of interest. This was a deliberate choice to prevent compromising the investigation, especially if organized crime or wider conspiracies were involved. Authorities emphasized that the case was active, with multiple agencies working together. The term ongoing was used repeatedly to indicate that evidence was still being processed, leads were being pursued, and no definitive conclusions could yet be drawn. The body was transported to the Westchester County Medical Examiner's Office, where a full autopsy was conducted. The examination included external and internal inspections, photographic documentation, and collection of biological samples. The autopsy confirmed that Ariela died from multiple gunshot wounds. The trajectory of the bullets indicated that she was shot at close to medium range while seated inside her vehicle. The number of wounds suggested an intent to ensure fatality, consistent with the earlier law enforcement classification of the killing as targeted. Forensic pathologists determined that the time of death occurred in the early morning hours, several hours before the vehicle was discovered. This estimation was based on body temperature, rigor mortis, and other physiological indicators. It aligned with the timeline of Ariela leaving her workplace in New York City during the early morning of August 17th. Samples of blood, urine, and tissue were collected for toxicology analysis. At the time of reporting, results had not been released to the public. These tests were expected to determine if Ariela had consumed alcohol, drugs, or medications prior to her death, which would contribute to understanding her physical state and possibly the sequence of events leading to the homicide. Bullets recovered from Ariela's body and her vehicle were sent for ballistic analysis. The objective was to determine caliber, type of weapon used, and whether the bullets matched any firearms in existing law enforcement databases. Ballistics could also indicate whether the weapon had been used in prior crimes, providing potential links to known suspects or criminal groups. Her role in the nightlife industry placed her in constant interaction with entertainers, club owners, and patrons, many of whom operated in environments known for cash transactions, competition, and at times criminal connections. This made her position both high profile and high risk. Investigators also examined her connections with prominent figures, including rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, with whom she appeared in a music video in 2023. This association, coupled with her visibility in New York's club scene, expanded the pool of people who knew or interacted with her. Authorities considered whether disputes or threats tied to the nightlife world or her social media presence might have played a role. As a figure with strong visibility, Ariela could have attracted attention, both supportive and hostile, from individuals within and outside her industry. The last confirmed sighting of Ariela alive was on the night of Saturday, August 16, 2025. She was reported to have been working at Icon, New York, her regular place of employment. After completing her shift, she left the venue in the early hours of Sunday, August 17th. Authorities reconstructed her movements leading up to the discovery of her body at approximately 8 a.m. on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon. Investigators reviewed communications she may have had before her death. This included calls, text messages, and direct messages on her social media accounts. These digital trails could reveal if she arranged to meet anyone after leaving work, or she had reported any threats or conflicts. Her social media activity, in particular, was closely examined. Given her large following, Ariela frequently posted and interacted with her audience. Any posts, replies, or private communications in the hours before her death could provide key insight into her state of mind, plans, or potential adversaries. Investigators turned to digital records to build a clearer picture of Ariela's final hours. Her phone records were obtained through subpoenas, including details of incoming and outgoing calls, text messages, and app-based communications. This evidence was necessary to identify anyone she may have contacted or who attempted to reach her. Her social media accounts were also analyzed. Direct messages on platforms like Instagram could contain interactions with individuals who might have had conflicts or agreements with her. Since social media was central to her career, the possibility of threats, harassment, or disputes being recorded in private messages was significant. Security footage was another essential component of the investigation. Cameras around Icon, New York were reviewed to establish when Ariela left, whether anyone followed her, and if a vehicle was seen in connection with her departure. Additional surveillance footage along her route, particularly near the Cross County Parkway, was sought to determine if her vehicle was trailed or intercepted. This collection of digital and surveillance evidence was aimed at reconstructing her timeline and narrowing down potential suspects. Investigators considered multiple possible motives in the killing. Ariela's work in nightlife, a competitive and often volatile industry, could have led to conflicts with colleagues, patrons, or individuals tied to club ownership and management. Disputes in such settings can escalate quickly, and her high visibility may have made her a target. New York's nightlife has historically intersected with organized crime groups. Investigators explored whether her role at Icon, New York, or other venues connected her to individuals or operations under law enforcement scrutiny. A targeted killing would be consistent with criminal groups seeking to eliminate individuals associated with disputes or seen as liabilities. Beyond professional and criminal angles, investigators also considered personal disputes. Relationships, friendships, or private disagreements outside of her public image could provide motive. Since much of her personal life was less visible compared to her social media presence, this angle required extensive interviewing of acquaintances, family members, and colleagues. Each of these motives was tested against available evidence, with investigators withholding key details from the public to protect the progress of the case. Due to the nature of the homicide, law enforcement agencies at multiple levels became involved. The Westchester County Police, who first responded to the scene, coordinated with the New York Police Department due to Ariela's New York City ties and her workplace connections. The FBI's Safe Streets Task Force also became part of the investigation, indicating the possibility of organized crime or larger networks being involved. Collaboration allowed for sharing of intelligence, pooling of resources, and broader jurisdiction in tracking leads across state lines if necessary. This multi-agency effort underscored the seriousness of the case and the complexity involved in identifying suspects and establishing motive. The first reports of Ariela's death came from local New York news outlets. They confirmed that a woman had been found shot dead inside a vehicle on the Cross County Parkway and later identified her as Ariela Langosta. Once identified, national media outlets picked up the story, focusing on her status as a social media influencer and her presence in the nightlife scene. Publications highlighted her large online following and her work at Icon New York. News outlets emphasized law enforcement's conclusion that her death was a targeted attack. This detail distinguished the case from random acts of violence and raised questions about why she was singled out. Many media reports highlighted her association with rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, noting her appearance in his 2023 music video. Given 6ix9ine's controversial reputation and legal history, her connection to him added to the public intrigue surrounding the case. Reports also examined the potential role of organized crime in New York's nightlife. With Ariela working in this environment, speculation grew over whether her killing was connected to larger criminal networks. Icon New York, the Manhattan restaurant lounge where Ariela had worked as a bartender, was one of the first establishments to make a public announcement. The venue confirmed her employment status and emphasized that she was an integral part of their team. Management described her as a consistent presence who played a recognizable role in the lounge's environment. Following her death, Icon New York announced a temporary closure of its operations, stating that the decision was made both out of respect for Ariela and to give staff and management time to process the loss of a coworker. The statement confirmed her status not only as an employee but as someone deeply tied to the daily functioning of the establishment. Other nightlife venues across New York, where Ariela had once worked or maintained close professional relationships, also issued formal acknowledgments. Starlets of New York, a Queens-based club known for its strong presence in the city's nightlife scene, refer to her as an influential figure within their community and highlighted the role she played in maintaining the image of the club as a recognizable personality. Opus Lounge followed with a similar statement, pointing out her influence within the broader nightlife industry. Both venues stress her contribution to nightlife culture and position her death as a significant event that extended beyond individual establishments into the entire entertainment industry in New York City. High-profile figures also added their voices publicly. Rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, with whom Ariela had previously collaborated in a music video, used his Instagram account to release a message recognizing her as a central figure in the New York scene. He described her as a tremendous woman and labeled her the Queen of New York, while noting that her death marked a significant loss. Cardi B made a shorter public comment, posting a message that simply read, "R.I.P. Dominican Pretty," which gained widespread attention. Both posts circulated quickly across platforms, reinforcing Ariela's visibility beyond nightlife circles and situating her death within broader entertainment media coverage. Within both the nightlife industry and the digital influencer community, Ariela's death triggered a series of tributes. Multiple smaller influencers, bartenders, and nightlife workers posted memorial photos, often referencing personal or professional interactions with her. Hashtags, including her nickname Langosta, began trending regionally, creating a digital record of tributes and memories tied to her. These responses reflected the degree to which she had become a recognizable personality in both online and physical nightlife spaces. Beyond tributes, a clear demand for accountability emerged. Several nightlife forums, online communities, and social media threads began highlighting the circumstances of her death as a targeted homicide. Discussions focus on the risks nightlife workers and influencers often face due to visibility, connections, and potential conflicts arising from professional environments. Calls for stronger protection for nightlife workers and for transparent investigative updates circulated widely. In these discussions, her death was cited as evidence of broader safety issues within the New York nightlife industry. If the story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest updates, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together, we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.